Hey everyone, it's Mojaxx, back in the DJcity UK lab, today with my review of the latest version of the KRK ROKIT 8 studio monitors. Now this product has been around for a long time. This is the 4th generation of it. So the question we're asking is it the same old story or are we looking at something new? Let's get into it. KRK ROKITs get a lot of hate, some of which I kind of understand, and a lot of which I don't. Whilst the previous generations have not had the flattest, most transparent sound, they were perfectly usable, and I guarantee if you dug enough, it wouldn't take long to find that at least one of your favourite records was produced using them, especially if you're into electronic music. The ROKITs also did something else which I don't think KRK get enough credit for. They really helped to popularise the idea of DJs using studio monitors in their home setups. When I was young, all the DJs that I hung out with used hi-fi speakers or small PA speakers in their bedrooms. Proper monitors were for real studios, that was the end of the story. But with the ROKIT series leading the way, affordable active studio monitors became the standard home setup for every practice room, and now DJs are learning and refining their craft, hopefully with a better understanding of how their sets actually sound. In any case, regardless of the haters, the ROKIT series has remained incredibly popular through the last 3 generations. So, naturally, KRK decided to do more of the same and pump out a mildly tweaked 4th generation model, right? Well, no. The lineup has changed slightly. In the past there were 4, 5, 6 and 8 inch dual driver models, as well as a 10 inch with 3 drivers. Now for the 4th generation there are 4 models. The 5 inch with a street price of $180 per speaker, the 7 inch replaces the 6 inch at $240, the 8 inch, which I've been testing, is selling for just under $300 each, and again they're doing a larger 3 driver 10 inch version at $500 each. They also have subwoofers, but we'll talk about those another day. The changes KRK have made with the 4th generation go way beyond what I would have expected. Starting with the aesthetics, apart from the colour scheme, they don't have much in common with older models. The front baffles have a far more classic, sedate look to them, super clean and tidy, with a bigger base port which extends further to the edges than it did before. Having that front firing port generally means the monitors are less fussy about being close to walls than with rear firing alternatives, although that didn't stop the older models from leaning towards the lower end of the spectrum anyway. Connections are simple with a combo XLR and jack socket for balanced input. None of the G4 ROKITs have an RCA connector now, which I do miss. Although it's not the ideal way to hook them up, sometimes it's just handy to have. Control is all done via one endless rotary knob, which also clicks in to activate the menu, which I'll talk about shortly. One very cool new feature is that the front baffle can be removed and replaced with a different one with metal grills on it. Those aren't especially cheap at around $50 for a pair of the 8 inch ones, but that's still more affordable than replacing drivers if you have children or unruly pets in your home studio who might end up doing damage to them. The magnets which hold the baffle on are incredibly strong, to the point where I thought for a while it maybe wasn't removable on my units, so there's no danger of rattling or anything coming with that feature. There's no doubt these 8 inch versions are big monitors, as you can see when they're put side by side with a 5 inch G2, and that's important to think about as you size up which model you might want to choose, not only in terms of how appropriate they are for your room size, but also whether you can physically fit them into your space. The 8s work perfectly here in the large open lab, but they barely squeezed onto my desk at home, and they weren't ideal there in terms of sound. These things go loud too. The RMS values of the 2 built-in amplifiers are much higher than on the last generation, at 68 and 135 watts for the high and low amps respectively, although that only translates to a couple of dB higher max SPL at 111 decibels. That's because the power amps are actually of a different type altogether, Class D now instead of Class A/B, which should be more efficient and run at lower temperatures. The next big change is with the drivers. The previous models had a glass aramid composite woofer and a 1 inch soft dome tweeter, but on the G4 both drivers are now completely new designs made of Kevlar, and what an improvement they bring. Sound will always be subjective and impacted by so many factors: your sources, the shape, the size and treatment or lack thereof in your room, amongst other things. But there's no doubt in my mind that the G4s offer a vastly improved sound compared to the earlier generations, even before any tweaking. The new drivers are just more reactive, more agile, bringing a new life to the mid-range which the G3s simply lacked. Frequency response is a touch wider than it was on the G3s, extending from 36Hz to 40kHz instead of a straight 35 to 35. The top end is crisp and clean, and the bass seems tighter and less boomy than it used to be. The reputation that Rokit's had as purely being bass monsters is quickly forgotten when using the G4s. They offer a far more balanced and nuanced sound across the frequency spectrum. The sound is helped even more by the other big change on the G4s, the new DSP EQ settings on the rear. As opposed to the simple high and low shelf settings we saw previously, the new models have an LCD screen with a total of 25 different graphic EQ settings for different environments, and it also allows control of other settings like the ability to disable the automatic sleep mode, which I never really got on with. KRK aren't just leaving you to work out the best sound settings on your own though. They also offer a mobile app for iOS and Android called KRK Audio Tools, and very clever it is too. It's got a whole bunch of different features within it, like a spectrum analyzer, level meter, monitor alignment tool, delay if you're using multiple speakers, polarity, and most importantly, suggested EQ presets. It can be a little bit fiddly to set up, as you need to connect your phone's audio output to your system and then use its built-in microphone for analysis, but it should only be a one-time job in every room. I found myself generally very happy with the results that the app gave me in different rooms, and it did give me different results, which tells me it's doing its job. You may decide you want to ignore the recommendations and go with what works for your ears instead, but it's still great to have as a starting point. Interestingly, I found the app usually suggested a far more flat profile than I would have expected from a Rokit monitor. Clearly, KRK have been listening to user feedback when it comes to sound profile. And that's the overall story with the G4s. With the new design, new drivers, new amps, and the DSP, the only thing these really have in common with the old Rokits is the name and the price bracket. Thanks to that DSP, you do have the option to turn the G4s into the bass fiends of old if you want, but by using that correctly and with the improvements to the new drivers, what we have here is a completely different, and I would say far superior, monitoring experience. So there you go, my take on the 4th generation of Rokit 8 studio monitors from KRK. Love them or hate them, what you can't deny is that the Rokits have been the most successful, most popular series of studio monitors in history. They really have. And so it would have been easy to forgive KRK for just kind of putting out a 4th generation with a different baffle design and a few tweaks here and there and still carry on selling thousands of monitors. They haven't done that. This is, I think in most respects, this is just a different product. This is not a KRK Rokit like you know it from the past. I think a lot of it is down to the material of the drivers. They're so much more agile than the previous version. So much more clarity and detail in the mids. That's where the difference really lies. The mid-range is just better. It's just superior on this new version. It's head and shoulders above what's come before. The DSP stuff as well, I love the fact you can really go in and tweak that sound in different ways. You're not just relying on a couple of knobs on the rear. You know, you've got lots of ways to work with them. They've still got great value. They're still excellent quality when it comes to the build. I think you should try and audition them. If you're gonna, buy studio monitors, of all the things that you ever buy for a home setup, studio monitors are the thing that you should try and audition. So do support your local music, DJ or production store and go and just listen to these against a bunch of different ones in your price range. But do leave your prejudices about Rokits at the door, because these are not your daddy's Rokits. These are new. These are completely different. I expected to kind of like them, but I've been blown away with how much better they are compared to the previous ones. This is a new thing entirely. If this is the new direction for the KRK Rokits, I'm very happy to hear it indeed. And I think if you go in with an open mind when you listen to these, you'll be happy to hear it as well. Thank you for watching today. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon down below to get notified anytime there's a new video from myself or the rest of the DJ City team. I'll see you soon.